Yeah, we started the session on the panel discussion to discuss about the O&M challenges and way forward for increasing the PLF. With me, I have Mr. Ajoy Chatterjee, a consultant, a power plant consultant from NRI Group. I have Mr. Satish Talmale, Chief Operating Officer from InGrid. Shri S. Narendra, Associate to NTPC. Narendraji, I will request you to unmute your mic. And let me call the missing participants. Give me a minute. I think I would search Mr. Alok Mukherjee to join us. In the meantime, I will request Shri Ajoy Kumar Chatterjee to give his thoughts for a minute or two. In the meantime, I search Mr. Alok Mukherjee and ask him to join.
Thank you, Mr. Khatri.
Thank you.
Ajay here. Good morning, everybody. I welcome all of you. And this basically the thermal power stations running. It now needs a lot of skill, a lot of efforts, and then you have to have a lot of guts. Without environment, first thing we are calling last, but it is not last. It is the first one. Without environment, meeting environment needs, you cannot run a power station. First of all, so environment problems are very high. In fact, these are the hazards I'm telling you. This is basically you are handling coal of very bad quality. You are having which has got high ash content, and this is basically needs a lot of efforts from every end to take it off. Then you have got many of the stations I have seen, they are evacuating the ash with the lean ash systems. Lean slurry system, nowhere it should be permitted. It has got doubly a disadvantage. One, it is involved polluting that water. Second, it is basically there's consumptions of very high water. You have resources, crunch resources there. You cannot start a plant until you got the water. Water of good quality is required for the people who have to maintain it. In fact, the ash evacuations has got dry ash evacuation has a lot of problem, but it needs a precision. We have to do it, but then without pollutions, and we can do it. I'm telling you, I'm challenging you. Basically, we can do it together. So basically, what happens is this dust suppression system. We can dust extraction, anything, but this is not enough to give the dust-free atmosphere. So we'll have to think it better and to give annual. Basically, whether we are in a position to do small sampling or as unloading the screws conveyors, which are no shafts. In fact, this is without shaft. This is basically screws is basically having the itself. It is a working of the as a screw, and it is well. If it is well maintained, there will be no lot of any problem. In fact, it is. And third, and your coal is also, as I am telling you, the coal, a bad coal, has got a very bad coal. Its quality is poor, but then we'll have to go with it, and with the financial cut, to face the problems. Thank you very much. Later on, we will be discussing very well. In fact, thank you very much, all of you. You know all of this.
I request all the speakers to turn on their video cams and microphone, please. These sessions are recorded, so it would be better that we are. Mr. Mukherjee, I would request you to turn on your mic on your webcam also. Now, I would request Mr. Talmale to give his thoughts and overview on his experience on the O&M area.
Sure. Thanks, Ashwini-ji. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Satish. I'm taking care of asset management portfolio for IndiGrid, but why I'm here, I think, is because of my past experience in power generation. So largely, I worked almost 18 years in power generation and last 3-4 years into other sectors, I would say, like transmission and all. To me, I think PLF, so there are challenges. We all know that the challenges are very pertinent, and looking at the landscape, what we are getting in recent years, I would say last 4-5 years, renewable is picking up and there is a new additional challenge of balancing the load between thermal as well as renewable. Along with that, there are a lot of disruptive technologies, what Mr. Ajay Kumar was also referring, related to environment and, making carbon footprint almost zero by 2050. That's a global target what we have taken. Then there are challenges around even competency of the skilled workforce, which is available in the country. And like that, the list goes on. Now, I think next, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we are going to share our thoughts. How do we overcome these challenges? And to me, I think personally, there has to be a robust maintenance strategies or operating strategy of a thermal power plant, which typically we miss in getting, or firefighting all our issues or all our challenges. That is something, I would try to share my thoughts on how do we build a strategy so that we achieve our objectives of maintaining best PLF of thermal power plants. Thank you, Ashwini.
Thank you, Talmilaji. Now I will request Sri Narendraji to share its thoughts. One of the largest power producer in our country and one of the largest coal consumer of our country also.
Thank you, Mr. Ashwin, and thank you, Mr. Chatterjee and Mr. Satish. I am Narendra. I am retired as Regional Executive Director at Eastern Region 1 at Patna, handling Bihar, West Bengal and Chhattisgarh power stations, one of the biggest hub in NTPC. So now, first of all, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to join this virtual platform on power stations O&M, the best practices in O&M, which is the need of the hour today. So once again, I thank everybody, and also the participants, the delegates, the co-speakers, and then co-panelists. I also wish them a good day for today's discussions. And also, it's mainly on the sharing of our knowledge, experience, as Mr. Satish was telling. It's a good beginning we had today, that he was just sharing that his experience. So this is the opportunity, that too in this pandemic day period, we crossed from almost 5-6 months. And this is a very good platform where we can share our experiences, practices, which will go in a long way to all of us, because we are in the common platform of a thermal plant. And using the coal, as Mr. Chatterjee was telling, that on the other side is the environmental issues, ash and disposal, etc. So in this scenario, we are operating our stations, units. So we have to be very meticulous in our planning, execution, operating, and do a very good thorough maintenance, so that we go into excellence. Excellence in the sense that we may be perfect, best power plant in the country, but also we need to be in the worldwide. Why we cannot be a best operating unit or a station in the world? So in that way, if you see, there are challenges. As Mr. Chatterjee was telling, challenges are day by day, it is going up and up. So environmental norms, it's going to be a big challenge for all of us, and we are in the having a lot of older plants. Coming to the next point is the compliances. If you target on the best practices, best stations, again the compliances are coming, which is again interlinked with all the things what we are talking about, the environmental issues or the performance related issues, etc., etc. Then comes to the performance. Performance in the sense you have got a lot of things, starting from safety, again environment, then operation, maintenance, and efficiency related matters, which takes the stations to a better platform in operating the plants. So in this way, if you see, automatically the PLF of the station goes up. We come in the merit order in a better position, and the demand is also going up and up for the particular unit of the station. So I wish all the best for the conference, virtual conference today, and I think we will learn a lot. I once again thank you, and I come out because people are waiting in that. Thank you.
Yeah. We were waiting for Mr. Sai Saab to join us for the welcome address. With a delay, I welcome respected Sai Saab for this program, and I will request him to share his few thoughts and welcome the gathering. And I would request Sai Saab to also turn off his video cam.
Video cam.
No.
Are you able to hear me?
We are able to hear you, sir. We are not able to see you. You can just turn off your video cam from bottom. Turn on.
Just here. Oh, okay.
Mr. Chatterjee, yours also, and Mr. Talmale, yours also.
Yeah, yes, okay. Let me just a second.
Is there any instruction from you? Anything I've told you? No, nothing. Turn on.
Oh, yeah. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we are able to hear you and see you.
Okay, very good. Thanks a lot, because I had a small meeting and that's why I thought it would continue, but it finished in about half an hour to 25 minutes. So therefore, I am able to join you. I had confirmed that I will participate, but more importantly, I will listen. I will listen to various speakers, experts, because at this stage, our power generation process is predominantly coal-based, and now we are getting in a big way into renewable. So O&M now as well as in coming years is going to be a real challenge. A real challenge from the point of view of huge capacity getting stranded. We will have phenomena like substantial backing down of power units like thermal power units during daytime when we have solar capacity available. Maybe we will have to have reserve shutdown. So you have variety of issues. I think we have 370,000 megawatt of capacity, and last year we clocked a little more than 180,000 megawatt at the peak. This year it is around 170 because 168, 170 because of and there is no growth because of the COVID situation. So the capacity is getting added. Only recently, I think a couple of days back or a couple of weeks, NTPC has commissioned more power stations, power units. So the thermal capacity is also getting added. The projects which were under construction, they are getting completed and getting added. And at the same time, solar and wind capacities are also getting added. So you have in good old days, we used to have severe mismatch. Then availability was less and demand was more. So we used to suffer almost 20%, 18-20% of shortage. But thanks to the steps that we took, now you have abundance of capacity available. The challenge for operating power stations has become much more now. In fact, I have talked to a few experts and a few power stations in the country that the ability of thermal power stations in terms of substantial backing down has to be brought in, has to be innovated, has to be experimented, innovated. And one power station that recently they told me they have been able to bring down, back down the generation to 30%. And that is a power station. Now it used to be BSES, then it became Reliance. Now it is Adani Power. And in Dhanu, and I had the privilege of getting the Dhanu units commissioned, they have been able to substantially back down to 30% of the capacity. Now, this is going to be somewhat more difficult in case of super thermal power units, but I would strongly recommend that those people who are in thermal power stations, they must learn both the science and art and skill of backing down. And another exercise, I have interacted with some of the people and have requested them, some of the experts in power stations, particularly thermal power stations, requested them that when you shut down the unit, how soon you can come back, because we have been very lazy in power station management, power station operation, particularly coal-based thermal power station people have had pressures, have had challenges, but we have been lazy also in terms of technology and in terms of operational strategy. So that means once you shut down and then you take 10 hours, 12 hours to get back, can this be reduced? Because if solar is available between 8 o'clock in the morning to let's say 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and after that we have to balance it with partly with wind and partly with thermal, then we have those challenges. So the type of challenges that you have in thermal power stations today, I mean, other challenges are continuing. The challenge of quality of fuel, quality of coal, handling of ash, those challenges are continuing. But bigger challenges have come because of our have substantial thrust on renewable. So I think all of us have to learn the technology, learn the science, and learn the art, and learn the various techniques of managing it, so that we are able to match the generation availability any point of time linked to whatever the optimal cost of power. If you look at the distribution company, they feel that if they can get power at 2 rupees or 2.5 rupees, why should they buy costly power on coal transportation all the way? Transportation cost itself is more than 3 to 4 rupees. So they have both. National level as well as the company level, they have the problem. Today, they continue to give the dispatch to many of the power stations in the country. That is because the PP obligation is there. But even there, merit order dispatch comes in the way, and therefore, merit order dispatch, if they can get cheaper power, why should they go to the costlier power? So I think the challenges are many. Earlier, we had the challenge of deficit. Now we have the challenge of prosperity. Sometimes when you have prosperity, you have more challenges. So you have the challenges of prosperity. I think all of us have to align our mindset, because I think I have myself been associated with power industry for close to 45 years now. Obviously, those who have been in this sector, they are very much, they love the conventional power, they love thermal power, and of course, in good old days, we had unaffordable renewables in terms of solar. Today, that is becoming affordable. And then we have climate change issues. So I think all of us, in terms of our mindset, our thought process, should not only reconcile to, should accept these changes that are happening, and fast changes that are happening in technology. And it is very important, not only for the managing director or executive directors or directors of operations to be reconciled and to accept this, but also down the line. I mean, we may feel why it is happening, why that is happening, why are we not allowed, why so much of backing down, why reserves shut down, etc., etc. But question is, I mean, events will overtake us. In all areas it has happened. In most of the technology field, this is happening substantially different, though the old challenges continue, but the new challenges. Take, for example, the grid management and operations of thermal power station. That has a new dimension today in the wake of expansion in renewable sector. So I think I can go on and on, but thank you very much for inviting. More, I will listen to the people. If there is any question at some stage of time, I will be there definitely for an hour to listen to you, and definitely I will respond. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Sai Saab, for joining us, and we are obliged for your presence today. Continuing with this panel discussion, let me start with Mr. Satish Tamhale. So, Sai Saab, would you like to stay on the stage, or would you like to join on the... Your microphone is muted.
Just a minute. I have put it on mute now. And I will be there and listen to some of the people. And as I said, that at some stage, if there is some question, I will respond. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. So, Talmale ji, I have important questions for you. how important is, from your point of view, the maintenance part of a power plant?
Sure. First of all, pleasure to have Mr. Sai on the panel. I think we are fortunate to have him. Hello, Mr. Sai. Very pertinent question, Mr. Ashwini. So, couple of thoughts based on my personal experience, and I think last 5-6 years I've been practicing it very closely. So there are three things I would suggest while planning the maintenance strategy for typical power plant, and this applies for in general for any sector, be it thermal, renewable, or any other mode of power generation. One is a delivery strategy. Second is enabling strategy, and third is sustainability strategy. So these are the three pillars I would say I would put the whole maintenance strategy equation into place. And each of the challenges, what we have been hearing, be it renewable taking lead now, environmental issues coming with disruptive challenges on technologies, every day it's changing, mindset issues, culture issues. I think all these things could well fit if we equate these strategies very well and meet our ultimate purpose of delivering best-in-class PLF plant with a total cost of ownership with an optimized manner. So when it comes to delivery strategy, I think the key pertinent fact comes is on performance. And performance, when I say conventionally, we have been talking about PLF, availability is the right thing. But what I feel, I think we should now change the gear more on to reliability and even to resilience. And why? Because unless we are reliable in whatever we do in day-to-day matter in operations and maintenance, we are not going to achieve the objective. And that means bringing a lot of new innovative technologies like digital, we all talk about, but to be more specific on that, like advanced pattern recognition technologies, which are available in the market today. Are our operators looking at the trends in a right way? The insights are, translated into actionable actions on the ground in terms of maintenance, planning, and execution. So those are the things from mindset point of view has to change to move our shift to reliability. So reliability typically will go by mean time between failures or restoration time and all those things. But now tools are available to adapt to those new thought process and adapt it. On the resilience part, I think largely when we plan for outage, we do typically, and I think the planning process has improved in last couple of decades, I would say, dramatically with the applications of ERP and everything. But I think the biggest piece we miss in strategizing that, are we having the capable workforce to respond to any emergencies? Are they enough trained in terms of competencies? Do we have all the right inventory, spare part management, and all those, strategies available? So those are the small strategies which goes and makes you a very resilient thermal power plant for that matter. Of course, the risk management plays a very important role in delivery pillar. How do we predict? How do we identify? How do we manage our risk for the life cycle? And that will come through a very robust reliability-centered maintenance strategy. And we have been talking about it. It's not at all new, be it a time-based, condition-based, or predictive. But I think the more focus now has to come on risk-based, because aging creates its own risk-based challenges or life cycle-based challenges. So this is all about delivery pillar, I would say, and we have to plan our strategies, our actions in those manner. On sustainability issue, I would strongly urge on process excellence. We have tons of knowledge. I think we need to create a kind of a encyclopedia or Wikipedia for, inculcating all the processes or best-in-class practices together and make it relevant for the last mile person, because typically that's where we miss the planning section, or the operational excellence team will frame out the policies and procedures, but when it comes to ground, there is a huge gap. And those gaps due to several reasons, whether the implementation was right, whether the people were trained to, handle those processes and SOPs, I would say. And then under the operational excellence or sustainability, continual improvement is a very important, very pertinent need. Are we doing reporting or are we doing improvements in our day-to-day lives? Typically, we do reviews, we look at the train and everything, but more it will spend a lot of time on reporting the facts rather than improving it. So managing daily improvements, that is a couple of tools which are available in the lean way of managing the operational excellence activities. So that is something we need to build strategy around it across the organization, across the hierarchies.
Mr. Tandale, from your thoughts, I have sorry to interrupt, but I have a question for Mr. Narendra ji.
Sure.
With we Indians are known for knowledge, and we have been called the golden birds in terms of money and knowledge both, and we are still Sone Ki Chidiya in India, right? When we talk about the trained manpower, the spare parts, risk management area, it's not important that the outsourced O&M activities will help us better in these areas of training the manpower, handling spare parts, or probably talking about risk management areas. These parts can be discussed and they can be aligned with the O&M contracts if we outsource them. I'm asking the question to the largest producer of our country.
Yeah. So, good morning, all of you, and most respected Shahi sir. I had the privilege of, I remember each and every movement. I had the support of him, and we moved ahead in the NTPC. Sir, with all these learnings, basically, as Mr. Satish was telling, sir, basically the station, if we talk about the operation and maintenance, it starts from the plant where the O&M man takes over from the construction and erection group. Now, if the project is constructed very well with all its standards and norms, with highly reliable construction work, there is much less on the difficulties during O&M, other than their own O&M jobs. Now, then it comes on the manpower planning. We do the big planning for the O&M and keeping the responsibility centers to the each and every head of the section, head of the department, like that. Then it comes to the system compliances. We need to have the 100% system compliance, and whether it is in the safety or it is in the performance or in any manner, because every organization has got their own SOPs, their own LMIs, their own OGMs, and a lot of things are there. So if
my question was specific. My question was...
Yeah, I'm coming, sir. I'm coming. Just a minute, I'm coming. So if these things are available in the organization, it can be done. And then about shutdown, breakdown needs to be avoided. That coming to the O&M side, nowadays we hear a lot of O&M service providers who takes care of end-to-end. So in NTPC also, as a JV, it was done in one of the plant, and it has been a success story. In case where we have to handle from the jetty, that is the grab unloaded to the main plant. It has been a success story, and it is still running for about 6 years or something like that. So there are only thing is we need to go into basically. I think we fail sometimes in the formation of the contracts, handling of the contracts, doing execution, and it gets blocked because the people who participate in the contracts, they have to be in the same level of performance. The platform has to be common. When we try to achieve this by selecting the correct vendors, and we will also get the right party awarded, and the contract can be a success story. And O&M, in case of ash handling, in case of coal handling, in case of main plant operation, it is all has been a very good success story. It can be achieved. There is no doubt about it, and it may work out to be better than the other side, when we are operating with the different contracts for operation, maintenance, separate contracts, it can be a one solution. It is possible and it is good. This is what my feedback about all these areas. Thank you.
Okay. What kind of challenges? I have a question for Mr. Chatterjee. What kind of challenges as a consultant, you face when you work with the power plants here? So my question was, what are the kind of challenges being a consultant when you face when we talk about outsourcing the O&M services?
O&M services, first of all, you are under O&M services. If it is to be done, it is a condition base, and condition base is basically you are already doing such as temperatures, profiles of the flow gas area and metal temperatures already there. Vibrations or important equipment, vibrations, etc. It is also there. But only this, it needs to be monitored well as you are introducing certain amount of new monitoring system. It should have all these. Without that, it is not going to give you that. Already we people are knowing what are the logics of it. In fact, we are in a position to do being at a site, but it is going to do immediate effect if anything coming wrong. If there be losses be there, the control room operator will be in a position to see it well, and it will be in a position to attend it. This is not only thing. There are many things. In fact, it is. There are other things. Another important point. So you are beginning maintenance is one is condition based maintenance, other is basically time based maintenance after certain period. So as because you have got a very low PLF, you can fit the system. If you are going to improve certain amount of things, you can shut down the units to take care of the things which is to be done, long shutdowns. So it can be taken care of the same. So partial, if you need to running with the partial load, so naturally it will be having a high rate, high. So everything will be coming. One thing, another most important thing, why you are getting forced outages? At the moment, forced outages, suppose you are taking out tube leakages. There be a suppose tube leakages can be overheating. Metal temperature is required. Water quality poor.
Right, Mr. Chatterjee. Before I proceed further, if I have a question for Mr. Sahi to answer, Sahi Saab, can I ask you something?
Yeah. Go ahead, please go ahead.
My presumption was that we right now have XYZ gigawatts of generation in our country, but we have an XYZ plus as a capacity in whole to generate the power. Now, when we are maintaining the PLF to a record of 60%, 65% today, why are not we able to increase these PLF limits to 90, 95% or 100%? The plant goes with the capacities. We definitely invest millions of dollars in plant so that we can go 100% capacity and the plants can be profitable.
Yeah, that's a good question. 2006-07, that was my last year in the Ministry of Power. And for the whole country, we reached an average PLF of about 79-80%.
I agree. I remember.
That was one of the highest. But that was the time when you had some sort of a parity between demand and supply.
Yes.
And of course, demand was a little more than the supply. And therefore, you could load your power station, ask them to dispatch, ask them to generate. Only in the night time they will reduce, etc., etc. Today, it is true that we have 370,000 megawatt of capacity, and as I mentioned in my introductory remarks, not more than 170, but leave that 170. If normal growth had been there, might be we would have gone from 180 to maybe 190 or something like that. Today we are around 170 plus minus. Now that's a huge gap. I don't say that if we have 370,000 megawatt, if we ask them to generate, all will generate at a time, because it has hydro, it has solar, it has wind, and they have their own time to generate. Like solar about 38,000 megawatt you have. If you ask them to generate today in evening hour at 8 p.m., they won't generate. But even then, allowing for that type of a problem or that type of an issue, you can generate much more. It is not 60-65% PLF what you said, Ashwini. Today PLF has gone down below 55%. Below. And private sector, they are not asked to dispatch. Public sector gets preference because they have PPA and all that. Therefore, NTPC, we have Narendra here. NTPC gets dispatches at many places. They also back down, but then they do better. They do better because many of their power stations are old ones. Their cost is low, tariff is low, and those which are new also have PPA and all that. So
probably a few years down the line, we will have
when we have to raise this PLF from 55 for the country to again 80-90%, 80%, you have the problem. Demand is not there. Demand is not picking up. So that is why I made the point. The challenge today, of course, I am very happy that our colleagues, our friends have brought out many of the maintenance issues, the planning part, the spare parts management, condition monitoring. Chatterjee mentioned about tube leakage and all that. They are all issues which will continue. But additional challenges for O&M people that have come, that you are in competition with solar, you are in competition with wind. These challenges did not exist 10, 12 years ago. Today, you are not in suppliers market, you are in buyers market. If you run a distribution company, and distribution company has a choice to buy cheaper power, why should they buy from you? Then you have a very great disadvantage in your technology, and that is for the technology experts or thermal. I always criticize them that we have been very lazy in improving the technology on thermal power generation, and that is why the two challenges I mentioned. That do you have the flexibility of upping and downing very frequently? You don't have. So the best experiment that I have been able to successfully get it done in one of the plants, the one that I got commissioned, is 30%. So that means if during daytime solar is to be given preference, you come down to 30%. Sometimes if your capacity is 2000 megawatt or 4000 megawatt in a plant, 7-8 units, then some of the units you put in shutdown, but bring back quickly. Now, if you will say, okay, I can't bring back quickly, I will take 8 hours or 9 hours to bring it. These are the challenges which I will definitely request some of the very senior people are there from O&M side here. These are the challenges you should now start thinking, what should we do without capex and with capex? Somewhere if capex has to be done, put that small capex, but bring this facilitation, bring this extra empowerment in your plant, then only thermal will be relevant. Otherwise, thermal slowly and slowly will lose its relevance. And if that happens, today you become a big backup for the solar plant in the evening, rather than trying to think of battery storage, etc., etc. So I think I would say the biggest challenge for thermal power O&M people and design and engineering people is, and technology people, to compete in the market. Can thermal plant also think of becoming a storage or the backup for the solar, which is not available in the evening? So that is the biggest challenge. That's the biggest challenge. Okay, thank you.
We cannot stay as a backup of the solar with millions of reserves of coals which we have, and we are supposed to utilize those reserves. This is my point number one. Point number two was also that how much capex or additional capex a thermal power plant can go through. We have day in and out many policies. Thermal power plants are supposed to change and retrofit the chimneys in order with their water consumption to 3.5 liters per unit, and also invest into the new environment norms, replacing installing FGDs into the power plants. So how much a capex can power plants take?
No. It has. What you are saying is correct. But these questions never came when solar was 14-15 rupees a unit. Right. Today, solar has come down below 3 rupees a unit. This question never came. And as I told you, I have myself been a thermal man for decades. Question is, we all have been lazy in this, in trying to predict the future. That future has come faster than we thought. See, I dealt with solar as director of operation. There was a small solar unit in Gurgaon here, and Ministry of Renewable people approached me. At that time, in 1991, we were we were not thinking of solar like this. In California, they did in 60s. And the price is all 16 rupees, 17 rupees, etc., 14, 15. In 2000, as late as 2012, 11, 12, Adani did a 40 megawatt somewhere in Gujarat, and that price was same, about 14 rupees a unit. So you can imagine 2012, 14 rupees a unit. Within 7-8 years to come down to less than 3 rupees, or now it is 250. So that is available. Look at it from consumer point of view. See, we are all parochial for our thermal. I have also been. But that is why another challenge that I told to my friends, including myself, that we all have to change our mindset and look at the reality. We have to respond to the reality. The question is, there can be sympathy, but sympathy cannot be beyond a point. So I think if environment has to be handled, then environment has to be handled, because you have from all over the world, not only we, the whole world is under attack on CO2, etc., etc. So therefore, those are the issues, and these are additional challenges that we have to handle. But see, one good thing is, when this new government came, I was on the task force, and we had recommended, and CA has also recommended, about 30-40,000 megawatt of old plants, old, not only old and inefficient. Like NTPC has some old plants, but they are doing very well. I was happy to know that first unit of Singrauli, which was commissioned in 81, even now it is doing 90% plus. So I will not say old. Old is not the only one. Old and inefficient. 30 to 40,000 megawatt plant have to be phased out. One action will be there. So that will create some good scope. Why should we waste more coal on a capacity when we can produce another power plant which can use less coal and produce the same power? So I think strategies are many, but the challenges that I mentioned to our friends here and those who are dealing with O&M, old challenges have become more magnified and new challenges have come. And in the new challenge, I think power operation people, power maintenance people will also have to be commercially minded.
Agree.
You were not commercially minded because you thought that I will produce anything, it will be sold. Somebody will sell. Today it is not so. That gap I am finding among operation and maintenance people all over the country, that they continue to think, this is my job to improve PLF, this is my job to improve availability. It is none of my business whether it is sold or not sold. So that is not so today. You are not in seller's market, you are in buyer's market. All right?
Okay. So we now started having, participants raising their hands to ask questions. I have the first question from raised hand by Mr. Rajkumar Sachdev, the president for Coal Preparation Society of India. The mic to him for his questions now.
We have been good friends.
Yes.
That Deva has been very good. Deva and we go back to decades. We work on a team which did a report from almost a recommendation for the Environment Ministry for your clean coal technology and washed coal. And recently there has been some change. All of us are upset, but we can't do much about this. So I think, but we go back to several decades. Mr. Sachdeva is a very respected person.
How do you get my? Thank you, Mr. for at least remember that we have very old relations. I asked very good question to you because your experience on both sides, on the coal side, on coal washing. You mentioned Dhanu can quickly back down and restore. You know Dhanu, you are aware that Dhanu's coal quality is much superior than average coal quality any other plant faces. That is one. Second, my question to you is, in fact, I requested you when this new notification came to do a mandate of coal wash, use of washed coal. You promised then you backed out. It doesn't matter, it happens. There are so many reasons you can give. Why thermal power operator are feeling shy of becoming very strongly pressurizing the Coal India or any coal supplier to give them coal of their required quality and in a consistent way? If these things happen, your problems, not only the backing down and quickly restoring the plant, will ease, also the cost will come down. Now you are taking ash coal with ash 40-45%, carrying it to 1,500 kilometers, and with the freight 2 rupees per ton kilometer, you can imagine the washed coal if you take Even at 300 kilometers, pays back the washing cost in the freight saving. So why this coal issue is not being talked in any conference? Because you take everything for granted. Okay, we have no choice. It is Coal India, a very big monopoly. We cannot handle it. Damn it, government is same. You remember we had Vasant Sakri as common minister with coal and power. Things were being solved, questioned every day. Qualities were being discussed almost every day, and things were being handled. Why thermal power stations, both public and private, they have become so spineless in asking for a good quality coal? This is my question to Mr. Sai, because we are old friends. I hope you will be very frank in answering this.
No, it's all right. It is not a coincidence that I have the same type of shirt that you wear today. Look, we did not exchange notes on this.
Yeah.
This question is, you are asking. I mean, your question is 100% correct, but you know it that we are on the same side of the thought. For years, we worked on this.
Sai Sab, your audio got muted somehow.
Are you hearing now?
Yeah.
No, I was mentioning that even after I retired from the government, I continued to pursue this subject. And Minister of Environment and Forest Secretary that time, Chatterjee, was there, Andhra Cadre IAS. He requested me whether I could chair a committee which will recommend on coal washery, because as you know, earlier 1,000 kilometer was the range. But many people do not know, and Mr. Sachdeva was fully associated with that in that committee, not only did we recommend that even 500 kilometer away from this, they should do it, not only 1,000 kilometer. We proved the point that even for power plants which are 500 kilometer and above, this gets economical. But more importantly, what we did, that in the earlier notification, this responsibility was only with the power plant people. In the new one, we made the coal supplier responsible for supplying only washed coal for all these power plants. The question is, both I agree with Mr. Sachdeva, power plant people are also not very enthusiastic, and less enthusiastic has been the Coal India itself. I was on the task force again when the new government came. Mr. Piyush Goyal was very committed to this, but Coal India Limited moves the way they want to move. 100 million ton, they have been talking for years. Today the responsibility is also on the Coal India. Being a monopoly organization, they should wash the coal, then generation people will have no option. That is the only coal that is available. So I think issues are same. When the new notification came to sort of quash the old ones, we were opposed, but I found that power generation people are also not there. When Mr. Sachdeva asked this question, he still thinks I am power secretary. We are on the same. We are on the same side of the issue. Similar view. We are on the same side of the view. We don't have differences. But today, I think the support for washed coal has reduced as compared to what we did a few years ago. That is the issue. Power generation people are also not feeling very enthusiastic. Coal India has also not been very enthusiastic, and that is how it is. I still continue to feel washed coal will be a much better, at least for power stations which are. I did that. We did that work. We did the. I think Partho was also there, the old former chairman of the Coal India Limited. He was also on my committee. We together did, and we got the notification issued. That was a step forward beyond what was issued in 80s. So I think we don't have a difference of opinion. Only thing is that I am not in authority to say anything. This question is better addressed to somebody who decides this.
Okay. So let me
many people are not reconciled, just like thermal people are not reconciled to many things of Coal India. They are not reconciled to my not being in the government.
Yes, Mr. Chatterjee. So let me.
Wherever I go, they will ask question as if I am representing the government. I am not representing the government.
Agree. So let me take the next question, which comes from Anup Bhargava, who says, how will we use the coal-based thermal power plant for backup when utility-scale battery storage will be more cheaper shortly? I will request Ms. Talmale to answer this question, because he was probably talking about battery storage. And to me and to my experience, we do not have megawatt scale battery storage in our country. Have megawatt battery storage in a country, we need lithium. Lithium is probably not available. And Ms. Talmale, what are your opinions on this?
Yeah, I think you answered Mr. Ashwini partially. I think right now we don't have technology, but if I talk about like 5 years down the line, I think we may have to start thinking about it, because a lot of global innovation R&D companies are working on this project, and I'm sure it will be future of things, and we will have to really think about the economics behind utility energy storage and backing down our thermal power plant. So still we have time, but I think the pondering has to start, and it's the right time to start looking at that. Yeah.
Actually, we do not have time.
Yeah.
We are far behind by Germany. We introduced the lithium battery storage years back, and that is the reason they are moving towards renewable now.
Yeah.
The next question, Mr. Sanil CN has raised his hand. So let me give the mic to him. Yes, Sanilji.
Shahi Saab, and good morning, everyone. Just one thought which came to me, that when we want flexible operations and you want to turn down the load to 30%, there are two challenges which come in. One is the heat rate, which deteriorates. So that means the energy cost also goes up. And this is especially a problem where you have a fixed cost PPAs. Secondly, also the O&M cost goes up because your machines are getting stressed. So what is the thought behind this with the government, Sir Shahi Saab? Could you just give us some light on this?
No, I see, the issue is, what you are saying is correct. It will partially, you see, today it is becoming irrelevant. Thermal slowly and slowly is becoming irrelevant. You have made investment in thermal plant, and you have not made investment to keep it in reserve shutdown forever. The question is, why it is becoming irrelevant? Well, we are saying, I will give you 500, 400, 500 megawatt during daytime, and evening I can give you a little more. But at 400, 500 megawatt during daytime, I have, let's say, 70% cheaper, 60%, 60% of the cost of that, then I go for solar. Solar is becoming, and then evening partly wind and this. So therefore, you are trying to work out a solution which may not be the best solution. Suppose heat rate, suppose you were doing 2250 or 2300 heat rate, the 10 kilocalorie increases, so parcel it will increase. But still overall, as compared to keeping it in reserve shutdown and closing the unit, or if you are in a happy situation to close down the unit, go back home, there's no problem, you can shut down your shop. But the question is, we are only saying that a solution which can still continue to make it relevant. Secondly, this is a challenge perhaps the Indian scientists as well as scientists all over, technologists all over the world. They have a habit to respond to challenge rather than always proactively doing it. I have been a man in the thermal sector, but I have been a great critic of thermal technology also, because we haven't done much. You are in this ONGC project, and you are doing that gas project. I was associated with that in the ministry. The issue is, imagine our entry into gas in late 80s, and by the time we are now, the thermal efficiency has improved from close to 45% to about 60%. Even super thermal power stations and ultra super technologies, today 38 to 42% we have gone thermal efficiency, not better than that. And that is also lost. That is also lost when you are on partial load. I think thermal plant designers, technologists, and operators all have to put their head together that the situation that you are faced with already, and you might be faced with it in a more intense manner in coming years. Do you have something to offer in terms of technological challenges and technological changes so that you still continue to be relevant? That is the point. Okay.
Yeah,
We capture your opinions and thoughts, Sai Saab. Just the audience, if I got another question. Flexi operational engineering also comes with turning the power plant for new set point and optimizing the heat rate for part load too. I request Mr. Bhargava, why don't you raise your hands and come on stage and ask it straight. But since we have this question, I will request Mr. Narendra to this being generating unit. I'll repeat the question. Operation engineering also comes with turning the power plant for new set point and optimizing heat rate for part load 2.
Now, this we don't have much exposure on this. Basically, on the engineering aspect on a flexible operation, what has been asked now, it is still being discussed at many forums, and now in the latest units, how it is going to be implemented in the design stage itself, which it's not clear. So we are still working on that. That much only I can say. And on the units which are getting commissioned, we are trying to introduce certain technologies, maybe which was not envisaged in the design aspects, but later during erection and commissioning. So if anybody else can contribute, that will be better. Thank you.
Mr. Bhargava, I hope Narendra ji have answered you well.
Yeah, so I would like to add here, I represent Donia Group, in which VPC is one of the company which is erstwhile Vattenfall, which has been a leading specialist for burning special fuels, O&M techniques. So many large company, including NTPC, has gone there for upgrading the courses of O&M. So from our recommendations, we have done power plant up to the tune of 20% for gas base and 30% part load. But when we do that, we also optimize the new set point, which is a real value, which Sai Saab has mentioned, that instead of tuning the boiler 100% load or testing it, we fine tune the boiler to a lower load and also optimize the part load, heat rate loss during part load. So there are many factors, 15, 20 parameters, which we do in a power plant. And there are several tenders which are coming by various states, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, and others, Maharashtra, in which we would like to be participating in that. And if anybody needs any of these recommendations or help or feasibility, we can do it. We can bring some German specialists to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So moving forward, I do not see anybody raising the hands. And looking at the time frames to compile the session together, I think I would request Mr. Narendra ji to compile the session and take the forward so that we can take a break and move forward for the next session. Narendra ji, can I request you?
I'll take leave, Ashwini. I'll take leave. I have some other meeting. Thanks a lot, all the participants. Thanks a lot. The debate should continue. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
No, basically, it is, I don't say it is summing up, because we have listened to our respected R.V. Shahi Saab and all the learned speakers, co-speakers with me here, and also the audience who raised valuable doubts. So, coming to the thermal operations, our challenges are many. Basically now, that too, what I am feeling nowadays is on the COVID pandemic, we are suffering a lot. Basically, getting the right people, because as Mr. Chatterjee was telling, and many of us are feeling, if the unit should not preferably go under a shutdown. Now, if any unit is not able to perform, they simply go on a reserve shutdown. We are not able to bring back. If the unit is down, we are not getting the right people for maintenance in right time. And because of maybe that now it is unlock has happened, fourth unlock and other things, but still people, for our safety reasons, we keep them on quarantine and so many things are happening. So people are now reluctant to come forward. We have suffered a few stations in NTPC itself. Somehow with the own, because now the learning is that we should have our own resource. In such situation, our engineers should be able to do a maintenance. We should be able to open a turbine because boiler is nothing. People used to attend the BTL, so many things, whatever is happening on the breakdown. Whereas in case of a turbine landing with certain issues, the self resource of the station matters a lot. Our own team, our own workforce and engineers who has got a hands-on experience. Now, many youngsters do not, because the hand holding is a must to bring because I was just touching on the manpower resource. We have to have the hand holding to the youngsters because the seniors are going out. Now, if the youngsters are trained like what we have got learning in 1980s, so then only the stations can perform during the next 5 years. Because this on and off, these problems will come and go out. We should be able to, otherwise the country is going to face a huge crisis if the stations are going back to us. And if the breakdowns are severe due to certain reasons, if the maintenance is not done proper, it is going to endanger the unit and the machine, which will not come for 6 months later. So these aspects has to be seen on the prevailing days. And operating the units on efficient mode. This also matters because we have a lot of departments, as it was told by Mr. Satish and others, that we have maintenance planning, we have efficiency group, we have the material resource group, because everyone has to work towards how to achieve the target of how to keep the plant at a better availability factor and also a PLF, so that we get a better merit order and we get the preference. Now, moreover, the stations like, 660 megawatt, now 500 is not talked. 660 people do not like to go on a shutdown. Like if you say Eastern region where the government of Bihar, they prefer the stations of 660 to continue to run, where it is somewhat ECR is slightly plus and some units ECR is much less. So still they prefer to have 660 keep running. And we do not expect, they do not expect any outage. So we have to have a better practices in maintenance, better practices in operation. A skill improvement is also a must. Continual coaching to the desk engineers by specialists in form of this virtual platforms. We can also bring in a lot of things to the operating engineers, maintenance engineers, better technologies, innovations. All those things are brought in. Then there is no doubt on performing better. And all should be energized, whether it's the efficiency group or a dike management group or the boundary management of the unit or the station. Everything matters for the performance. It is the best performance means all these corners have to be tied up. So that's what I could say. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Narendraji. And I request a long, loud applause from the emojis down, which we can see the emojis with loud applauses, but we cannot really hear it, being in the pandemic situations now.
Yeah,
I believe virtual platforms are good, and this should stay with us for some time now. I will be available in the launch to discuss whether we should go ahead and go with the normal live conferences at the hotels shortly, or should we maintain the same platform to virtually to meet each other. So with this, I will end this session, and I thank all the respective panel members to be here, and a round of applause to everybody here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And everybody can enjoy the launch there. To network with each other, sit on the tables, and you can virtually meet people. That's the different kind of platform which Mission Energy has brought to you. which is not available in any of the largest platforms like Google or others also. So enjoy networking, enjoy meeting each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.